And we are live. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever the hell you are in the world, and welcome to Sidetrack, your sci-fi TV and movie channel. We are here with young Matthew, and even fucking younger Harris. All the way
Howdy,
over.
howdy.
How are we, gentlemen?
Doing well, a little tired. Been playing a little too much Hogwarts, but alive somehow.
Well, today we are going to be picking our top 5 sci-fi movies of all time. There will be controversy. There will be arguing. There will be Harris coming up with some stupid shit. But we will decide our top 5. So we'll get into it straight after this. Not going to fuck around with it. I am going to throw you my first movie off the list. And I have to make Stormy is not with us again today, I'm afraid. He is off building spaceships. But he has sent us his list. And it is interesting. So I will throw them in between you guys throwing yours. So here we go. First on my list is The Matrix. The original Matrix, not the Resurrection. Not that one. Because, oh my God. It's pretty bad. I even didn't mind
the other two. I like the new one.
I don't know. But The Matrix. The Matrix, for me, it's got to be thrown in there because it was groundbreaking. It was sort of at that cusp where digital CGI was really starting to become... it was getting to the point where you can't tell the difference between reality and CGI anymore. And they broke a lot of rules when they made the original Matrix and even the two that followed. But the original Matrix was the best one. You always know when there's a great movie when everybody copies it for years. And that was The Matrix all over. People copied that damn film over and over and over again. So that's why, for me, The Matrix is one of the greatest sci-fi movies ever made. And it is full on. It's a proper sci-fi movie as well because it breaks, it makes you think. It's got... I'm not even sure it makes sense in places, which is always a good sign of a good sci-fi movie. You're like, that makes sense, and like, yeah, it's it's designed to try to expand your thinking. It's not just about what's on the screen. You're supposed to try to read between the lines a little bit. You're supposed to try to, like I say, it makes you think. So, that's why for me, The Matrix is in the top 5. Do you guys have any arguments with The Matrix? Because
No argument for me. It's actually in my list, but it's not number 1.
It's in my list as well. We're gonna have some layover on that one.
Excellent. I love a little bit of crossover. I actually guarantee you that at least one film on my list, both of you will go, no. But we'll see what happens. So that's first on my list is The Matrix. Guys, in the comments today, guys, if you want to get in there, tell us your 5 movies. I've already had some comments on the short I did earlier. I will share those in a little bit. So you guys are going to have your voice as well. But we are going to pick our top 5 today. That's when the arguments really start. Matthew, sir, what is your first point? I should say, by the way, before we get into it, we're not going to probably put these in order. It's not that's not maybe my 5th favorite movie all time, because actually getting these into an order was actually quite hard. Picking a favorite for me was actually quite easy, but beyond that,
so we're not doing it in reverse order again.
You can if you want. You can if you want, or you can just throw them out there. But what have you got? What is 5th on your list, sir?
My 5th is Planet of the Apes.
Ooh, good one.
I'm kicking him out.
I really
no. Planet of the fucking Apes. Are you kidding? Oh, he's picked him down. You kicked yourself out then.
What's wrong with Planet of the Apes?
Which one? The
the originals. The originals, yeah.
Okay.
Not the Mark Wahlberg one?
Not the new ones. The new ones are all right, but I really, really enjoyed the originals growing up.
I think he was.
I've got all of them.
Still in. I think it was Marky Mark, wasn't it?
I think he was.
Okay. Charlton Heston.
Really enjoyed them. Yeah.
Why?
Really enjoyed them.
Hey, no, they're not bad films.
I don't know. I think it was one of them films I could watch with my dad growing up, and I don't know, I just have really good memories of it. It's just one of them films. It is, as a child watching it, I've just got good memories, and that's how I made this list. It's do I have good memories, and did they have some sort of, was there like a moment in my life that I can think back and be like, yes, that like made my love of this genre essentially, and that's one of them. It's number 5, so it's not my all-time
I'm going to
favorite.
apologize for kicking you out, because that is, and that's what movies and things are supposed to do, aren't they? Particularly movies over a TV series, where a TV series you've got hours and hours and hours of TV to impact. Movies are short, sharp hits, you know, and if it has an impact on your life like that when I say to you what's your favorite and it jumps straight out at you, that's the point. Nostalgia, you know. It doesn't. I think, like Icarus has said, nostalgia doesn't necessarily make a good movie, but it's what's important to you, and that's the thing, isn't it? When we're talking about what is good, it's what's important to you.
These lists are all very. These are personal to us. These are our lists, so your list is going to be different to mine, and even people in the audience, they're going to be like, "Well, I don't like that film." That's fair. You can have your own list.
Oh, guarantee it's not making the top 5 when we do the video at the end. Oh, not even a chance. But
it's in my top 5. It'll always stay there.
No, mate, that's a good shout. I like it. And like I say, the final sequence is iconic at the end of the day. You know, you crazy, you burned it all. It is iconic, so you can't really argue with that.
I've seen every single one. I've got them all on DVD. I absolutely love them.
I've seen
every single one.
Harris, what is 5th on your list, sir?
Well, this is the one. I won't throw a wrench in at number 1 just to keep you a little leviated there. But this is a little bit different. It's 1973. It's a French film, so I have to read a bunch of subtitles whenever I watch it. But the 1973 animated Fantastic Planet film, I think, did a lot for sci-fi. I love it. It's just a fun film just to watch in general. It's a little dated, I guess, in animation, but at the same time, we go back and watch Steamboat Willie kind of Mickey Mouse stuff, so it's really not all that dated. So the reason I put it up there is because it wasn't the first, I guess, sci-fi movie off the planet Earth, but it was probably the largest scoped.
It was probably
at the time
animated movie.
Yeah, it very well might be the first sci-fi animated film. I can't think of many other animated films besides. I'm sure there are, but that's the first like mainstream animated film that wasn't like a Disney princess or Mickey Mouse or something of the sort that I can think of. I'm sure there are others, of course, but animation, it had a big kind of a dip in the water there, scope wise and concept wise for sci-fi. I think it really took it to kind of the next level and allowed people that brain space to say, okay, well, let's take these things off world. Let's actually do some weird stuff. Let's get trippy and interesting with it. Yeah, so that's fantastic.
That's another thing is pushing boundaries. That film definitely pushed boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
I have watched it because it was part of my education when I was a kid. That I had a mate who's definitely a sci-fi geek, and he's that guy throwing comic books at you. You got to read this, you got to read that, you got to read this. And he said, "Oh, you've got to sit down and watch Fantastic Planet." And yeah, he made me watch it. And I have to admit, I sat there all the way through going, "It's French," but like, no, just watch the aesthetics and everything else. But it should be, if you've got kids and you want them to understand sci-fi, it's a good foundation. It's a good education.
Very.
Yeah. My list for number 4 is actually matches Stormy's number 5. So I'll throw them in at the same time. So number 5 on our Stormy's list, who faxed it in before the show started, is Aliens. And that's also number 4 on my list. The first Alien, if you'd have come up with that, I'd have said, no, come on. I said full on sci-fi. Is that a horror movie? You know, it's one of those things that you could toss a coin. But Aliens is a sci-fi movie.
Yeah.
It may be an action movie as well. But, you know, that's well, you know, you're really splitting hairs then. But it had some iconic sequences. Get away from me, you bitch. The tank, I still want one. with the gun that comes down at the back and everything. You know, the knife with the. There are so many great scenes in that film that, you know, sometimes every so often that when the director's cut comes out to these films, and you've got to go, well, does it add anything to the movie, or is it just, you know, padding? And you watch that film and you go, editors need to get out of their own fucking way, because that Aliens should be a 3-hour movie. There is so much story that they just didn't tell because they cut it out because they wanted it to be less than 2 hours at the cinematic release that needed to be there, that just weren't. The director's cut is the version you want to watch. You know, you see the whole thing with the families at the base and the, you know, and the refinery, the terraforming station beforehand, and all the stuff you don't see. All the stuff with the little kid whose name is just coming out of my head. I want to say Spud, and that's not right. What's the little kid's name? Anyway, you know, you actually see her beforehand with a family and everything, and you know, it's not a lot of the impact of why she's in the film later is lost because of the editing that the executives basically forced on the director to get it as a cinematic release of less than 2 hours. And Newt, thank you, you old Yorkshire geek, you absolutely beautiful human being. Newt, where is Spud from?
I don't know. I was trying to IMDb it and I couldn't find it.
ABC was a couple of seconds later with Newt as well. Well done, sir. But yeah, Aliens is not just a great movie, it's a great action movie, it's a great thing. It's one of those very rare films that is virtually perfect. The casting's perfect, the story is compelling, it goes on, you know, it's like it's one of those very rare films that you can watch more than once and you'll notice something different each time. It generally will make your heart pulse. It's just a perfect movie. And yeah, number 4 on my list and number 5 on our Stormy. So
yeah,
number 4 on your list, Matthew, sir.
My 4th is again a very nostalgic pick. It's E.T.
Oh,
I really like E.T. So the reason, so growing up, I didn't watch many films growing up. Okay. But the films I watched and the films I liked, I watched over and over and over again.
Yeah, we all did.
E.T.
Karate
E.T.
Kid
was one of those.
I can literally do Karate Kid word for word.
E.T. was one of those films for me. It was. Yep. I think it probably is the reason why I started getting into liking aliens and science fiction and spaceships and are we alone in the universe kind of thing, because I wanted to be Elliot on the bike flying over the moon, through the moon. I wanted that. I want to meet little E.T. in my back garden. I want to look after him. I want him to go Matt instead of Elliot. But I think it's one of them. It's probably more like a family sci-fi. It's not like a full on epic sci-fi. It's a family film, but it's one that I love. So
it's great. It helps kids conceptualize sci-fi, kind of like we were just talking with Fantastic Planet, and same thing with Rise of the Planet or Planet of the Apes in general. Not Rise of the Planet of the Apes, but those are great family films as well as just conceptual things for kids to wrap their brains around, and it's so much fun to do that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I hate E.T. I think it's boring. I think Steven Spielberg needs a kick. No, it's not that far. It's a good film. It's got fun bits in it, but I personally, I've always found, even when I was a kid, I found it boring. Oh, look, there's E.T. Let's watch E.T. Isn't it lovely? I'm like, Mom, for fuck's sake, I can't stop. When's E.T. going to eat someone? And he never eats anyone.
So for me, with E.T., there's 3 films I can think of that would be in the same vein as E.T. for me. So you've got E.T., Bicentennial Man, and AI.
Boring,
right? You know, that kid. I watch them constantly. I love them. I absolutely love them. I don't know what it is about them, but I think they're all pretty similar in terms of
being boring
in my head. No, they're not boring. They're really good films.
A little bit.
Bicentennial Man.
Boring.
I absolutely love it. You and me, we're the same. I love it. It's such a good film.
Yeah, but you know,
Icarus has just said, "What makes ET sci-fi? Aliens."
aliens. He builds a radio to phone home. That's science fiction. No, it is. It is science fiction. I don't know what else you would call it. What is it? A rom-com? It's not, is it? So, no, it's an ET. It's a sci-fi. So, okay. Or generalization. Just put in Fifth Element, and I never even thought about that. God damn it, Fifth Element. Right. Okay. I will tell you the fourth one on Stormy's list before I throw it over to Harris. So, his fourth thing was Moon, a movie that really reminded me of Silent Running back in the day. It was like a 70s or very early 80s movie. It's a guy on a big spaceship with plants and things, and he's just got this one little box robot as a friend. But Moon is a very similar movie for me. It's like Sam Rockwell stars in it. And Sam Rockwell's a really great character actor, isn't he? You know, he's just like when he fully gets into a part and he can be silly and things. Moon's great, and it's one of those movies that really does draw you in. It's one of those films, actually, I would say that all the way through you're thinking, I should probably turn this off. I don't really get it. I'll just watch the next 2 minutes, and the next thing you know, you've watched the whole damn film and thoroughly enjoyed it. And you know, it doesn't quite. I don't know. You could even argue that nothing really happens in it.
Yeah, it's kind of just Sam Rockwell being Sam Rockwell in space, and
yeah,
I'm there for it.
But it's such a brilliant character-driven movie. Again, it's only really sci-fi because it exists in space, but it's there's so much psychology involved in the things. And yeah, I love it. It's a great movie. So how about you, Harris? What's on your next?
So I'm not tossing another Fantastic Planet in here, but this one very well might show up on some other list down the road. But Blade Runner, the original one, I had to kind of decide between Blade Runner 2049 and Blade Runner, but Blade Runner just kind of it set the grounds for almost. It didn't set the grounds for elevated sci-fi per se, because Kubrick kind of started that off with 2001 and A Clockwork Orange, but Blade Runner showed that you didn't have to be Stanley Kubrick to make elevated sci-fi per se. So that was nice. And it's just great. It's a solid film, always will be pretty solid, and Harrison Ford running around, thank you, please. More Harrison Ford sci-fi. Come on.
It's again another one of those films, isn't it? That it's like it's one of those read between the lines films. There's so many layers to that movie. If it was released now, it'd probably be called Woke. But I mean, there's so many different. It's about freedom. It's about gender bias. There's all sorts of things in there that if you read between the lines, it's supposed to. It's not just a film, Rutger Hauer and punchy, and it's supposed to leave you with something. You know, you're supposed to take something away from that movie. And yeah, that's one of the reasons why I would say that's a great film. It's a great film.
And it so easily could have just been punchy, just so straightforward, and they decided to just take the perfect route with it. Thank you.
Yeah, no, 100%. I agree with you. I've got to write it down, haven't I? What's it called again?
Blade Runner, not 2049, because I know you'd kick me off immediately if I told you that one.
That wasn't great. I'll give you that. It wasn't great.
I like it.
Yeah. Number 3 on my list. Oh, this might be controversial. It's RoboCop. Now, boys like RoboCop because there's violence, there's a cool robot. If you're a villain and you can run, though, you're escaping this thing. I mean, it's like jujung, jujung, jujung. I just run away. Bye. I think Ferry will shoot you, but you're talking about a film that actually has loads of layers to it as well. I mean, actually, to be fair, Verhoeven always sort of like takes all those layers and like all the subtle layers that are supposed to be in a movie when you're supposed to read between the lines, and he goes, "Fucking there, have it, that's it." Then he shoves them right down your throat. But I kind of like that, you know. He's like he wanted to make a subtle thing about environmentalism, and he did the whole bit about Sun Cream 3000. So he doesn't make it even remotely subtle. But I quite like that as well. But the thing for me is that RoboCop was so unique when it came out. Nobody had ever quite seen anything like it. I remember seeing it when I was a kid. My mom and dad didn't realize what it was, and so they let me watch it. And then I'm there going, he just blew his arm off. I even love RoboCop 2, but the first one, it was so extremely out there in every way. It was a proper balls out movie. I love watching documentaries about how it was made. I love things about how like it nearly killed the actor, Paul Weller, and not Paul Weller. That's the singer in it. Paul Weller, the singer.
That sounds right though.
Just a second. I'll think. But anyway, I love things like how when he was wearing the suit, it was really, really heavy.
Peter Weller.
And it nearly killed him. Peter Weller, thank you. Paul Weller's the singer. So what they, by the end of the movie, they had to put like an air conditioning unit in it. So there was an air conditioning unit just off screen with a pipe basically going into his back of his foot, injecting cool air up one leg to stop him from dying. And it was seriously that bad. The suit weighed so much money. He was losing like a kilogram every time he put the damn thing on. He weighed less by the time he took it off. I'd love things like that. But
you just know that other leg, the one leg that, because the body got all the air it needed, but that other leg that didn't have the AC,
it was
that was swamp leg every day.
I love things like as well, like the scene at the start of the movie when they blew all his arms off and Paul Weller got blown apart. I'm going Paul Weller. They had people on set throwing up because it was all very much physical special effects, and they'd done it so well. They had to do it towards the end of the movie because they were worried about like freaking people out and things. But apparently, crew was sick. And it shows on screen. I loved watching it when I was a kid on like ITV at like late at night, and they'd cut all those bits out, and he's like going, "Oh, I've been shot," boom, and then and he'd fall over, and then it would cut, and he's dead. And you're like, "Well, no, what happened? Why did his arm fall off?" And it's just like,
I can't do that.
I love those cut movies like that. It was just awesome. But yeah, RoboCop for me, it was groundbreaking. Properly groundbreaking, and that's what I want in the sci-fi movies. Much so, I want to be entertained. I want stuff to blow up because I'm a complete child, and I want to maybe make me think about it. And RoboCop made me think about it. And I want a film that I watch over and over and over again. And all of the films on my lists, I've watched probably 10, 12 more times in my life, and will always watch it if I get an opportunity. And if I see it late at night on TV, I'm gonna watch it. And this would 100% be one of those films. Matt, number 3 on your list, sir.
My third is Matrix. So your 5th.
But why for you?
I don't know. I really... again, it's nostalgia. I don't know. It's one of them. I've always watched it. I always go back to it because it's, I think, just a good movie. Forget the sci-fi element of it. It is just a good, like, the concept is good. Are we in a simulation? How can we get out? Blah, blah, blah. I've always liked that side of life kind of thing. Like, are we in a simulation? I've always been interested in that kind of stuff. I don't believe it. I don't think we are. I hope we are. Because I want to go and fight robots.
Huh?
I really, really want Morpheus to come into my office and hand me a red and a blue pill. No. But yeah, I'm saying no, but yeah, I do want that. No, I don't know. It's one of them. I've enjoyed every single Matrix film. I even enjoyed the recent Matrix film. I know a lot of people didn't like it, and I don't understand why people didn't like it. I just thought it was good, but it was Matrix. It's how if a new Stargate came out, I would still watch it, even if it was crap. If everyone else said it was crap, I'd still watch it, and I'd probably still find enjoyment because it's Stargate, and that's all it is with Matrix for me. Yeah. It's Matrix. It's continuing the story. I want to know what happens. I just love Matrix. I love it.
Yeah. Okay. I remember watching The Matrix. That's the other thing with this is if I remember the first time I watched a movie, then it's had an impact on me. And I remember watching The Matrix, but the main thing I remember about it was I was walking out the cinema with my girlfriend at the time, and she just literally went, "What the fuck was that?" And I'm trying to explain it to her. Why did he wake up with no hair? Because that's the real him. Well then, what? Why did he think with the?
Yeah, I've tried to explaining The Matrix to like my partner and stuff before, and it's they just don't get it.
Very intelligent young lady, she just didn't get it.
If you don't enjoy it and you're not invested when you're watching it, you're not going to understand it, and that's fair enough. But
and don't get me wrong, there's elements of that movie I can't explain. Yeah,
Yeah.
The secret is though there isn't a spoon. So as long as you remember that, there is no spoon.
It's bendable.
Idiot.
The amount of times I've sat there with a spoon and just think there's no spoon there. Fucking
there
move.
Is a spoon. Like Yuri Geller.
It's a rubber spoon.
Look, I bent the spoon. Look, I bend it back again. Look. Oh man. Number 3 on Stormy's list. He went a bit highbrow. We're here going RoboCop. I like RoboCop. Stormy's 2001: A Space Odyssey. On his list. Now that is a proper sci-fi movie. It regularly makes the top 5, top 10 sci-fi movies of all time when voted by critics and Rotten Tomato, and number 3. It's again, hey, look, there's loads going on in that movie. It's iconic. This whole thing with Hal and everything is, everybody knows that. Even if you've never watched the film, that little, "What's up, Hal? What's going on?" Everybody knows that. Everybody knows the ba 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 ba. No, that's something else. Anyway, but everybody knows the monolith and the thing. It's obviously a film I haven't watched in a very long time, but it is iconic. And hey, they're on about making a remake and a streaming service for Amazon, and now Amazon own it. Not a film, an actual streaming series. I don't think there's enough story there for me to actually spread out. But hey, there's 3 or 4 books. They made it into 3 or 4 novels. So
there is an official sequel, technically, that came out in the 80s, I believe.
Yeah.
Kubrick didn't direct it, but I think he produced it. I'm not positive on that, but there is a technical sequel.
I think there was 2 books that followed it. I think it was 2001 as well. Anyway, there's a few books. There is a bit of material there. So yeah, 2001: A Space Odyssey, a bit highbrow, but that's Stormy's 3rd list because he's old and he's not here to defend himself. So Harris, 3rd on your list, sir.
Oh, I had to make it just so different on this one. Just really throw something out there that nobody would expect. Matrix. Reloaded. No, I'm kidding. Just Matrix. Well, no, I mean, it's the same reason that you had it on number 5. Same reason Matt has it for number 3. All those reasons. It's just such a perfect conceptual film, which is what sci-fi films tend to be.
Yeah. And
it helps you wrap your brain around something that you don't necessarily think about all the time, but very well could be going on a daily basis. And how would we ever know any better? Unless you get a little red, blue pill, whatever. It's just, I mean, since we kind of talked all the sci-fi aspects of it up, it's just such a great film for action as well, for how it implemented all these cool sci-fi elements into their action and into modern and just not necessarily modern kung fu or anything like that, and modern karate, all these different things. They put modern fighting styles and old fighting styles into the film, incorporated them well, and made them make sense in a world that didn't make sense to us. And it did it excellently, superbly.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the first time I feel like we actually saw, and I kind of talked about it a couple weeks ago. I'm not much of an anime person, but I started with Attack on Titan. I like that. But the cool thing about anime has always been you can do these really awesome fight sequences that you can't do in live action. And Matrix proved that you could. You just have to be willing to go that stylized. You have to be willing to do that kind of otherworldly kind of thing, and they did, and it's just it stands the test of time because of it.
You have to get actors that are willing to spend 6 months training as well.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the fight scenes in Matrix are so good. They could be in any film and make that film better. It doesn't have to be about that story, but you put it in that style of fighting, and it would just elevate the film. It's just fantastic. Like, I love the fight scenes. The fight scene in the first film. The fight scene in the first film with Neo and Smith in the subway.
Even the fight scene that didn't quite work in the second one, I'm going to forget whether it was Resurrection or not. Sorry, Resurrection. Whether it was Reboot.
The one with like the Million Smiths.
The Million Smiths fight scene, which didn't quite work.
That's the third one, I think, isn't it?
That is it. Reloaded, then what?
No, I think it was the second one because it was the first time we see. I think it was Reloaded, and then Revolutions was the third one. I think.
Okay, there we go.
Practice and thing, but anyway, Reloaded. So they have the fight sequence with the hundreds and hundreds of Smiths. The first time we have that fight, not the second time. So that didn't quite work. The CGI wasn't quite there. It was still a bit plasticine-y. And where at times the particularly Neo didn't, you know, think you get like CGI with the arms and legs are slightly too long, and you can tell it's like it's not quite right. But they were so close. It really was the cutting edge of the technology. Is what the technology was capable of. And through the original trilogy, it was all about 100% commitment from the actors and the team behind it, and the Wachowski brothers and Keanu Reeves. All of the special effects, all the fight sequences, everything was always. There are so many things in those first three films that we've never seen before. The fight sequence on the motorway with the ghosts and everything.
Yeah.
We've never seen anything like that, ever. And whether you don't like the movies or not, you've got to tip your hat to the effort and the special effects that went into it, because nobody had ever done it before.
Yeah.
And
I agree with you on the second movie fight scene, in that it didn't look great. But conceptually, I thought that was a fantastic fight scene.
Oh, yeah.
Mostly it worked. I would say mostly it worked, but at times you're like a bit. It's not quite.
It takes you out of it when you can see it's not real. When it's a little bit more plasticky, and it wasn't as immersive. But if they redid it with like better CGI, it could be amazing. But the thing is, you couldn't remake it now because they've already done it. If they tried to redo it, they'd be like, "Yeah, you're just trying to do that." It wouldn't work if you try to do it now. But
yeah.
They could remaster the disc set or the digital disc set at some point, but
wouldn't be worth the money. That would cost so much money.
That would be expensive. Very
much money to redo. Right, we are 3 in. We have our top couple left to go. So I am going to run a couple of adverts. We are going to breathe, and then we are going to be straight back.
9chevrons.com. 9chevrons.com is your dedicated source for Stargate news, which will aim to complement this YouTube channel with news that we have from our contacts at MGM and Amazon, breaking news about a new potential Stargate series, as well as providing reviews and any potential updates to news stories that we break. Check out some of the news articles that we have already at 9chevrons.com.
SciTrek also has some amazing merch. Get yours today and show your support at sci-trek.com.
I could see Matt there going.
When you've recorded it and you've heard it a million times, it gets really old.
Yeah, you have to do that again at some point. We need our adverts redone. But right, so before we get into it, I have been checking out the lists as we've been going through and writing down any that are thrown up. A couple of movies we haven't mentioned yet. Tron, Close Encounters. I don't know if it's on your list, guys, but Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind.
Great.
It's not on our list. War of the Worlds, original, or actually, I didn't even hate the Tom Cruise version. Galaxy Quest has been thrown up a few times. That's a comedy, so not allowed. Forbidden Planet as well has been thrown up. It's another movie that might get a remake at some point in the near future. So I will we'll do our top 2, and then I will just read a couple of comments we had on the short video I did earlier as well. Paul Maloney actually just throw up with The Abyss, which actually really, really nearly made my top 5.
If I had another one, it would be on my list.
Yeah, it was really close for me. That is, again, talking about special effects and stuff that we've never seen before.
Oh,
they had to create the technology to do that whole water sequence. It didn't exist. And I love that whole submerged rig thing. I love that film. That was that again. It's a bit slow and it goes on a bit in places to be perfect, but it's fucking close. It's really good.
Though I'll never forget the first time I watched Ed Harris and the rest of that cast just kind of liquid oxygen, and then to start having to breathe liquid oxygen. That was just it was intense to watch.
Stormy actually worked on that movie as well, and he says he was telling stories about how somebody nearly drowned because that wasn't. I always thought that was those you get those cups sometimes they've got 2 layers, and it looks got liquid. So it looks like there's liquid in there, but it's not really. So I always thought that the mask had 2 things. So when the water's coming up, it just looks like it's filling up, but it's not really. And this act is perfect. Nope, they filled the water up, and someone nearly died. It was really, really but great movie. So love Stormy for that one. So number 2 on my list. This is my curveball, and it's a very personal movie. And it's Star Trek and the Undiscovered Country. And now, if you're a regular Sci Trek, you've heard this story a million times, and I'm sorry, but I'm going to tell it again. I actually snuck out of school to go and watch this movie. So I sat in the cinema on my own. There was me in my school uniform and 2 men one was sat over there, one was sat over there in the cinema at 3:00 in the afternoon watching Star Trek The Undiscovered Country. I am not going to pretend for a second that this is the greatest movie ever made, because it isn't. Right? There are parts of this movie that are bloody awful. The opening sequence, though, is amazing when Praxis explodes, and it's like Sulu and the Excelsior have to fly into the wave and all this sort of thing. There's the bit where Sulu's flying in to help the battle, and he goes, "She'll fly apart. Fly her apart, then." That generally give me goosebumps. There's the whole thing with the Klingons quoting Shakespeare, and he goes, "You've never heard Shakespeare unless you've heard in the original Klingon." No, it's Shakespeare. The original is English, but anyway, Carol. It's just, there are parts of that movie that are iconic. But for me, I was 13 or 14 years old. I'd never seen a movie on my own at the cinema before. I'd never seen a sci-fi movie at the cinema before. I loved Star Trek. Star Trek The Next Generation had just come out, so I was already obsessed. And then this movie came out. And for me, it's the best of all Star Trek films. I adore it. And I cannot do a list of 5 sci-fi movies and not have Undiscovered Country on there for very personal reasons. And I will fight, and I will remind you who's in charge when we do our top 5. Okay? That's not making the top 5 because it's very personal to me. But I love it. The whole speech at the end with William Shatner does make me want to throw up into a bucket, and it's just fucking. We're together, and you're together, and we're all together. Oh, just fuck off, Will. It's just no, believe it. But the film is glorious, and I love it. I just adore it. So that is my second one, and I make no apologies for it, but I am kind of sorry. Matt, number 2 on your list, sir.
Back to the Future.
I had Back to the Future on my list, and I crossed it out about 4 times.
I was waiting for someone to say it.
Every single Back to the Future. I really want them to make a 4th one, but they just can't. And I understand why, but I really want a 4th one. So I've seen a concept of what the 4th one would be, and it comes from the Telltale game that they released, right? Mm-hmm. And it sounds amazing, right? So after this live show, everyone go and type into YouTube Back to the Future 4. It's basically clips from the game, but they've turned it into a movie. It is so good. I want them to make it because it would be fantastic. And it's essentially Doc Brown because he's been traveling back in time, he's created temporal duplicates, and one of them turns evil, and it's really fucking good. It's so good.
Okay.
But that being said, that there's not going to be a fourth one, but the original trilogy, absolutely love it. The first film is the best one, obviously. The second film is good. I really like the third one. I like it better than the second one. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I think it's because it's a Western, and I kind of like Westerns.
Yeah.
They made 3 very different movies, but with the same essence to them, though, didn't they? So it definitely was a part. That was the first film I ever remember them making a trilogy, and it was like part 1, part 2, and part 3. I don't ever. There must have been films. There were films before that, because like The Godfather.
Star Wars.
The first film I remember them doing it. And they filmed the second and third one back to back. I don't ever remember them doing, the films being done like that before, but it was so ridiculously popular. There aren't many movies that's ever been made that have such a wide audience and a fan base to it that is so loyal, because it's, like you said, it's just a good film. An iconic.
It is. It's iconic. Yeah.
The people have been trying to build hover.
It's one of them
skateboards ever since.
It's one of them films. Even in 50 years, people will still be watching it. In 100 years, I reckon people will still be watching it. It's timeless.
Yeah. It's also one of those films that they can never reboot. They can never remake it, because people would go ape shit. And there aren't many films. E.T., like you mentioned earlier, they can never remake E.T. People will go ape shit. Back to the Future is one of those films as well. They can't remake Star Wars. They can't remake that. The original, I mean. They can never remake Star Wars: A New Hope. Back to the Future is one of those films that you just can't do it. Because Michael J. Fox and they are the character, and you can't recast it. It's impossible.
Yeah.
And people would go apeshit.
I mean, it's so iconic that it has turned off just a funny parody of it. Turned off the most successful probably sci-fi show ever made per capita, Rick and Morty. I mean, they're only 6 seasons in now, and like, if you had to do a most successful sci-fi show per episode made, it has to be Rick and Morty. There's just no doubt about that. And it's just a spin-off.
Rick and Morty is ingrained in society as well, a bit like the Future is.
Especially now.
Like, everyone knows Pickle Rick, everyone knows Szechuan sauce.
Which, Matt, have you seen where, I think it was just Adult Swim doing a commercial ad, but they did Christopher Lloyd, and it wasn't Daniel Radcliffe, it was somebody as like a live-action Morty, but Christopher Lloyd came in as a live-action Rick.
Yeah, I've seen it, yeah.
I would worry about a fourth Back to the Future right now, just because it's so far past it. But if they gave me a live action Rick and Morty with Christopher Lloyd,
if they did,
I mean, it'd be so much fun. Little hot waters right now, but
well, he's sacked now, isn't he? They're getting a new actor in, so
yeah.
Justin Roiland is his name.
Yes,
yeah,
but
he's gone.
At this point, he was essentially just voice talent anyway, from what people have been saying. And Dan Harmon's always been the genius behind the show anyway. So the good writing's still going to be there. We just had to have a good voice mimic.
There's plenty of people that can do Rick and Morty.
Oh, yeah. Better than some creep on
TikTok, there's so many people. And they're like, gee, Rick. I can't do it, but gee, Rick. Like, you sound exactly like him. Why don't you fucking get hired by him?
While we're mentioning Robert Zemeckis, though, and Back to the Future, number 2 on Stormy's list was not one of Robert Zemeckis' biggest movies, but if you're going to talk about a realistic sci-fi, the thinking man's sci-fi, Contact by Robert Zemeckis, based on a Carl Sagan story. That Carl Sagan, the scientist, actually had a lot to do with how realistic this story was. Matthew McConaughey starred, Jodie Foster. It's 1997. I'm reading. I've had to Wikipedia it because I couldn't remember Jodie Foster's name. So while we were talking, I'm very knowledgeable. I know this movie backwards. It actually was a very commercially successful movie, but it's realistic. And it was supposed to make you think about if aliens really did turn up on this planet. I mean, we're talking about science fiction, which it is because it's never happened, but it's heavy science, you know. And we're talking about Matthew McConaughey. What other film can we maybe mention that he starred in that was
well, I'm gonna be saying that a couple. We'll get there. We'll get there, huh?
Oh, okay.
Ah.
I'll shut up then. But yeah, you know, it's a great movie. It's not the sort of film I would watch more than once. It's sort of like The Martian for me. I love it because it makes me think, but I have to be a little bit more entertained than that for me to really impact me, for me to really love it, you know. But yeah, no, a great movie. So Harris, what was number 3 on your list, mate?
3 was Matrix.
Matrix. I didn't write it down. What's number 4 on your list, sir?
Or 4 or number 2? 2, huh?
2. Sorry, that's the way I've written it on here.
Well, 2. I almost put this as number 1 just because it's iconic enough where it's almost shoehorned in at number 1 everywhere. But thank you for beating me to the punch, Stormy, because 2001: A Space Odyssey is Stanley Kubrick's magnum opus. Nonetheless, he made many a great film after that, but The Shining still not his magnum opus. A Clockwork Orange is not the magnum opus. 2001: A Space Odyssey is the magnum opus, and rightfully so. It's just so well done for everything we said earlier, and it's just it makes you think. It's one of those conceptual films that it is kind of slow at times, but I think that pacing helps your brain kind of keep up with what's actually going on.
Yeah,
and it's just when I watched it probably way too young to actually understand what was going on, but that made me want to go back and watch it over and over again until I did. I still probably couldn't tell you exactly what's going on, but that's the best part about it is you watch it over and over again and find something new about it, find something new within like the script, not even just what's going on visually, but what Kubrick wrote down for the characters to say. And it's just, it's just nigh perfect. I love it.
And visually beautiful as well, which is something that was sometimes overlooked, that actually I think it did win. Didn't it win an Academy Award for these special effects?
Oh, it should have, because, I mean, I can't think of a sci-fi film that hasn't taken some kind of inspiration from at least the visual aspect of 2001 since that. Yeah. Everything, their whole color scheme, that psychedelic, it's so perfect for it.
Yeah, the use of music is so important in a movie like that, and in any movie really, but when you say 2001: Space Odyssey and everybody, I can't play. I'd play the music now, but then we'd get a bloody copyright thing against us. You know, sometimes they'll say, you know, like films can't, or a picture can't make noise, but you know, you hear it in your head straight away. Every aspect of that movie was seriously thought about. Is my point. Nothing was left to chance. The visuals are perfect. Every single word of the script is focused and to the point. Every silence is specific and to the point. And yeah, I find it a little bit difficult, hard going. It's not the sort of film you just watch on a Friday night because you want to, you know, chill out, sort of thing. But it's a great movie. You can't argue with it, really. You can't argue with putting it in the top 10. We're going to struggle not putting it in our top 5 when we do the list.
Oh, it's just so meticulous and perfect. I mean, Kubrick was the guy to do algebra and calculus just for fun in his home on his free time. The little free time he had was, all right, let me fix the brain up a little bit. And you can just see it in the films he made. Yeah. So well done.
Yeah. Perfect. Right, so number 1 on my list. Now, this is the only one I've actually put in order. The other films I struggled putting in order. This film is not just the greatest sci-fi movie ever made, hands down. It's one of the greatest movies ever made. It's perfect. All right. The special effects are subtle, but stand up today. And this is a film that's 30 years old. Casting was perfect. The writing was perfect. It's got characters in it that there's been remade and redone over and over and over again. There is the pacing, the editing, everything perfect. It is genuinely one of a handful of movies that there is nothing wrong with it. It's The Predator. The original Predator with Arnold Schwarzenegger is perfection. I can watch that movie over and over and over again. It will never be. It's like a bit like Die Hard in the same respect that they can remake it as many times as they like. They can't outdo the original and shouldn't try, to be honest, because you just can't. It's a film that's been remade a million times by different, with different titles and different things, and copied a million times. Predator is one of the greatest movies ever made. Done. End of argument. It's going top of our list. Matt, what's top of your list? What's wrong on the top of your list?
Top of my list is Terminator.
Wrong. Predator's better. Terminator or Terminator 2?
I'm going to say original Terminator, but I prefer T2 personally. Probably T2. I'd say T2.
T2.
Yeah.
Terminator is great.
They're both just
Brilliant.
Wonderful.
And again, if we're talking about special effects and things, though, like Terminator 2, again, they created the technology.
T2 is definitely what I'm going to pick because I watched that before I watched before I watched the original. It's the movie that got me into Terminator.
Yeah.
And what made me fall in love with Arnie as the Terminator. That's why I don't like.
You love Arnie, Matthew and Arnie sitting in a tree. Yes. Anyway, my dad let me watch the original Terminator late at night on a Friday, and I now look back on my childhood thinking my parents were really not thinking this crap through. I must have been about.
They wanted you out the way.
They didn't want me out the way. They wanted me traumatized, I think.
just give him some crazy movie real quick. He'll be all right.
Yeah. Let him stay up till 11 o'clock watching
that
18
that
movie
opening scene,
9. If he cries,
the opening scene on T2. The opening scene on T2 like freaked me out as a kid, where she's there on the train link fence and she's like, that skin's getting ripped off and all that. I'm like, what the fuck? I thought it was awesome. I'm like, what the fuck?
And for it to happen that early in the film, you're just like, oh, okay.
It's literally the first thing you see. Yeah. And then you just see the skulls and the Terminator just crushes one of them. I'm like, what the fuck? That was so good.
One of the again, we're talking about iconic scenes that everybody knows. Terminator 2 is full of them. It's absolutely full of them. But the original Terminator was as well. When he walks into the police and he's, I'll be back. He carried on with that for the next 40 years of his career. He was always coming back. But then he blows that whole police station away. That stayed with me. When I was a kid, my mum and dad would let me stay up at late night watching that. And I'm just like, what the? Now I look back at it thinking, my 15-year-old kid won't watch that. Well, no, to be fair, they've watched much worse now. But anyway, my 12 or 13 kid maybe wouldn't. That is Terminator, and then Terminator 2 is what I consider is. I remember my lad, my eldest, and he's talking to me, and he's like, he'd not watched any of these films, And I'm like, and he's about 15, and I'm like, mate, we've got to start your movie education. Die Hard, Predator, Terminator 2. You've got to and Terminator. You've got to watch these movies immediately. First Lethal Weapon. These are the films that this is your education. Crack on. This is what you should be comparing every modern film to, because they were as close to perfection as you can get. Everything ever since has just been trying to use CGI to, the first Avatar maybe. That all these sort of films. They're perfect. So
they are.
But so Terminator 2, mate, it's a freaking good shout. Or Terminator, to be fair, you could toss a coin. Depends what you want out of it. Terminator 2 is a bit glossier, it's a bit more special effects, it's a bit more thing, but the first Terminator was definitely grittier. I love to see Arnie as a bad guy.
I think the original Terminator was a bit, in a way, a little bit more scary because it was the CGI wasn't that great, but it looked freaky. It looked
when he's taking his sunglasses off and he's got the red. Oh mate, it was freaky. I mean, the one bit where you can tell it's a bloody thing he had, like when he did it in.
Sometimes when you're watching something and you can tell it's CGI, or you can tell it's a prosthetic, you can kind of distance yourself from it. But when it's, I'm not going to say when it was done shit, because it wasn't done shit for the time. It was all right for the time. But yeah, it was all like stop motion, wasn't it? For the actual movement of the
And conceptually, both films were brilliant as well. You know, time traveling back in time to kill the mother of the thing. You know, like again, made you think. It made you like, oh, you know. And again, we've not seen anything like it before. But like I said, again, in T2, they had to create the technology for lots of those special effects with the T1000 because it didn't, or T2000. Was T2000? Forget. No, T1000 because he's a
T1000,
T1000. They had to create the technology. It didn't exist. And that's, again, James Cameron being a mad bastard, just like going, this is what I want to do. We can't do it. Well, we'll have to figure out how. This is, okay. I was like,
I think it was one of the scariest parts. Like when I grew up, the scariest part was, you know, when his hand turns into a knife and he's got his hand in the woman's eye, but then mimicking her voice
through the mouth when it. But yeah, she's like taking. Oh no, the husband. He's drinking the milk and he goes. Chunk.
Yeah, but the mimicking the voice of like, when you coming home, John? When you that was freaky.
Yeah,
like looking back, it's not really that scary. It's just like a knife in someone's face, essentially. But it's the mimicking someone's voice.
Yeah,
it just freaked. It was freaky at the time.
Well, he did it in Terminator as well, didn't he? In the first Terminator after he'd killed the friend. But no, it's a great movie. Great movie. Good shout. Definitely gonna. It's difficult not to put it in.
It's so good.
Stormy's number one pick was Dune. Now I don't know if he means the original Dune with Patrick Stewart or the new version. I think you could. I think they're very similar in lots of ways. So but if you want to talk about an original story, and again a story with lots and lots of different layers to it, it's a political thriller. It's in space, obviously. There's deception and lies and action and everything. There's everything in the Dune movies. Spiritualism. It goes on and on and on. There's layers upon layers of the damn Dune movie. I think it's a bit too conceptual for me. I find it a little boring. It's not the sort of film I would watch over and over again. But if you are talking about high concept sci-fi, you can't really do much better than Dune, I would argue. Harris, what is your final throw of the dice, sir?
So I'm gonna cheat just a little bit and toss two little honorable mentions in real quick because I wanted to
hold off.
No, okay.
Don't throw in honorable mentions. You're going to get a chance to do honorable mentions before we decide what our top 5 are. Just tell me what your number 1 is now.
Okay. Well, then I don't have to give my big old spiel I was preparing. All right. Well, let me dive into a quick little story then. Of course, because M Cubed, where myself, my channel, yada yada. It means movies and money, and I love talking about them things. But the last bit of that is good old Mary Jane. And of course, I moved to California because I like movies and I like a little greenery. So one thing that has always stuck to me was the most I have ever smoked walking into a movie was like 15, 16 years old walking into Interstellar. And it is stuck with me as it blew my mind. It blew my socks off. It blew anything. It just pah, it was amazing. It stays amazing. Christopher Nolan is just phenomenal at what he does. He's a master at the art. If he's not the best sci-fi guy ever, it's got to be Kubrick or James Cameron. It's one of those three. I mean, it has to be, right? I'm sure we can toss somebody else up there, but Christopher Nolan is he's a master at what he does. The film itself is perfect. As someone that likes to act, not necessarily wants to act, but likes to act and enjoys the art aspect of it, that type of project to be able to sink into any of those characters would be, it'd be a dream come true. It's just that film is so weird to wrap your head around at times, especially in that third act. But to be McConaughey and to go through and see your family kind of age alongside you, but not alongside you, it's been done before, but it has never been done as meticulously and precisely as old Chris Nolan does. So thank you for that. It's mostly practical. We talked about practical stuff instead of CGI earlier, and Christopher Nolan makes sure that practical effects are definitely prioritized over CGI, and you can just tell the fact that we talk about the economics of films sometimes. That man literally bought a cornfield and paid off the entire movie by selling the crops of the cornfield for Interstellar. Genius.
And he used a real black hole as well.
Yeah, I don't know where he found it, but he managed it.
That is a fantastic film, and that was going to be on my list at somewhere because I couldn't stop thinking about that film. But I've not seen it enough times for it to be like my all-time favorite. But I absolutely love it for everything you've just said, and like it's like the super realistic, like the attention to detail, like the thing in the end. I still can't wrap my head around it. Like I don't understand it, but I fucking love it.
It makes sense to a degree, but then you're like, how many other degrees do I need to actually make sense of this?
The thing that just I just couldn't get around my head around. Why the hell was he in the library? You know, that little room, and he's pulling the books out. Why? Everything else I got, the whole time dilation thing, but the library bit, like what?
Quantum mechanics. Ask me what I thought of Interstellar.
The what?
You hated
Ask
it.
me what I thought of Interstellar.
You hated it.
Fucking hated it. It's boring. The robot was stupid. Anne Hathaway is lovely, though. I love Anne Hathaway. She's a very beautiful lady. I know everyone said, the attention to detail thing, the whole end sequence, there is no science behind that whole end sequence where he's behind the books. I know it's technically quantum mechanics and things, but no. I find it boring. On the whole, I just didn't like it. I don't like Chris Nolan. I love the Batman movies, except for the third one. I thought the third one was too up its arse. Tenet is stupid. It's so boring. I want to blow my own brains out rather than watch it again.
I've not got around to watching that one yet.
Don't bother.
I enjoy it.
No. Well, you're probably stoned. Watch it sober.
Yes.
It's stupid. It's boring. It's badly acted. Even though it's an incredibly expensive film to make, it comes across quite cheap. It's badly edited.
Tenet?
Yeah, honestly, I hated it. I took the kids to watch it.
I thought you were talking about Interstellar still here.
No,
not Interstellar.
I'm riding.
No, Tenet was quite cheaply. It's not cheap to make. It was very expensive to make, but it comes across quite cheap. I just hate it. Hate it. I've watched it once. I'm never watching it again. I'm sorry.
That was going to be in my honorable mentions because that was teetering on the list. Like, should I put it on there? Should I not? But because I went down the nostalgic route. It's not anything nostalgic. I just like the film. It is good.
It's a personal list.
It's great, and it also hits nostalgia for me from my little bit of greenery. So it's great.
We might have to put a little nostalgia to one side when we come.
I mean, I would love to have watched that Stones. That experience must have been insane.
Me and two of my really great friends at the time just walked in. And we had no business walking in. I don't know how we made it to our seats. We were high school kids, just stoned out of our minds, and then just wandering. Plop ourselves in the middle of the movie theater and then just lost it for 3.5 hours. Just kind of came back and was like, oh, the world's still okay. Thankfully. Yes. Good. Okay. No dust or anything. We're good.
You experienced time dilation in real time.
It felt like it. That's for sure.
What was the Leonardo DiCaprio film where they have to go through the different layers and it's all in dreams?
Inception.
Well, that was my honorable mention.
I watched that stoned.
That one.
That was an error.
That one. That's great. Eat them up.
That was an error. We all came out of it going, what? We all like, what is a sheep? What happened? Okay. We go watch it again. Yeah. Let's get more popcorn. But yeah, okay. Right. So we've got our 5 lists. So mine, Predator, Undiscovered Country, RoboCop, Aliens, and The Matrix. We've got Dune, Contact, 2001: Space Odyssey, Moon, and Aliens. From our Stormy, Matt, Planet of the Apes, E.T., Matrix, Back to the Future, Terminator 2 or Terminator, we're not really bothered. And Harris, Fantastic Planet, Blade Runner, Matrix again, 2001: Space Odyssey, and Interstellar. That are our lists. we have to pick our top 5 of our favorite sci-fi movies of all time, which will become the Sci-Trek official until we change it or do this video again, or actually just change our minds. Our official top 5. But before we do that, we can throw in a couple of honorable mentions, a couple of movies that maybe aren't really sci-fi, or aren't pure sci-fi, so we didn't want to put it on the list. I'm just going to throw a ball straight out there. Ghostbusters. It is a sci-fi movie. It is one of the, but it's primarily a comedy. So and it's ghosts, but it is still sci-fi. It's one of the greatest movies ever made. It's again, if we're talking about perfection, it's just beautifully made. And the original Ghostbusters, obviously not the one with the ladies, which was still a good film. I'm not a sexist pig. They didn't ruin it just because they've got boobs. Or maybe they did a little bit, but it's just a bad film. So it's not funny as a comedy. And that's like the straight up thing at the beginning, isn't it? Just terrible. So, but yeah, Ghostbusters, the original Ghostbusters, perfection.
Men in Black.
I've got several others I want to throw in as well, but guys.
Men in Black.
Oh, you got
it. Again, in terms of nostalgia for me, I watched that so much. The second one was all right, and the third one, I actually enjoyed the third one, actually. The second one was okay. The first one, though, oof, perfection. Yeah. The scene where the ship crashes down and goes through the globe and just crashes on the floor. Oh, fucking love it. I would rewind that scene and just watch it over and over again because I love it.
Yeah. It was brilliant.
Talk about good conceptual sci-fi. Ugh.
Big Trouble in Little China is a brilliant film, and they're remaking it, which is a crime, but it's not sci-fi. It was magic. It was magic and wizards and things like that. But brilliant movie. I can't believe that noise. It's ridiculous.
My neighbor just turned on their very loud cars. What that noise is.
What?
I'm gonna turn my mic
incredibly loud.
Oh, I didn't hear it. My mic, my speakers aren't great. How about you, Harrison? What you got? Any others on your throwing? Ignore the noise. It's fine.
Okay. Well, Inception's on my honorable mention, but one that I just love. It's not great, but they just announced the 4th one, and I'm so excited for it. Pitch Black. I love Riddick. Give me some Riddick. It's cheesy. It's
the Chronicles.
It's so much fun. One of my first film memories is oh my God, what's his name? Vin Diesel. There we go. I wanted to say Vince Vaughn for a second. I just got the VIN in my head. Vin Diesel killing the guy with a teacup in Pitch Black. It's so good. It's so bad. It's so good. I love it. I love it.
That was the Chronicles, wasn't it? He does it. He bam, shot, wow. Yeah, no, I love that. I tell you what, Trekgate and myself have Spaceballs. Again, if you're a regular Sci-Trekker, you might have heard me ranting about Spaceballs quite a lot on another live. I can't remember what we were talking about, but Spaceballs, I want them desperately to remake Spaceballs or do a reboot of Spaceballs. Spaceballs 2, The Search for More Money. With Star Wars, so popular at the moment. I mean, come on, MGM. Amazon, just do a parody. It's primed. It's like bam.
The sequels gave everybody the perfect thing to just paint the picture for Spaceballs 2.
Exactly. It's beautiful. We need it. Again, not really a sci-fi, but I want to see them go in La Platte one more time. Ridiculous speed. I need to see it. It's I'm a Marg. I'm half dog, half human. I'm my own best friend. This needs to be back in our lives, and we need the Schwartz one more time. So yeah,
Jumper. Someone's just mentioned Jumper.
Jumper's fun. I love Jumper.
That was a good film. Again, it's not really science. My
other honorable mention.
Good film.
Jumper is a good film. You've already mentioned it. Is Martian. The Martian.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good film, but it's a fantastic book.
Yeah.
So if you want to experience it in its entirety, either listen to it on Audible like I did, or buy the book. It's fantastic. Andy Weir is a fantastic author, and the second book.
Project Hail Mary, right? You like that one a lot too?
Yeah.
We've spoken about this before, haven't we? Yeah. Project Hail Mary is so much better, and they're making a film out of it. Yeah.
In Time with
It's
Justin
going to be
brilliant film. I love that film.
who's going to be the guy? I think it was Ryan Gosling. Ryan Gosling is going to be
Ryan Gosling,
Project Hail Mary.
No way. Okay.
Oh, it's so good. So good. I'm gonna reread it because it was that good.
I haven't read Project Hail Mary, but I want to. I really do.
It's so good.
A RoboCop Returns is apparently still planned at MGM and Amazon, but they've only just recently got ahead of movies, so give it time. But another RoboCop movie
with Peter Weller or Joel Kinnaman.
Sorry,
Peter Weller or Joel Kinnaman?
No, it'll be a new actor, chances are. But it's supposed to be storyline. It will be a direct sequel to the original. There was So there was a script for a sequel that was always supposed to be done, but then RoboCop was so popular, they rushed and they wanted a movie quickly, and the script just wasn't ready. So they rushed RoboCop 2, which is I actually really enjoyed it still, but they rushed it. But there was a storyline written by the original writers for a sequel, and that's what they're supposedly basing the next sequel on. But it'll be very much Stranger Things-y, 80s. It's supposed to be a direct sequel, so let's see what they do. It could be horrific, but it could be really, really good. If they get the tone right, that could be really, really good.
Hopefully it's cool. Do we know who's the filmmakers behind it?
It's not got that far yet. They've only Amazon have got as far as planning, and Paul Verhoeven has been in talks. So the original creator to come back potentially.
Because if he doesn't come back, Netflix is almost done with Stranger Things. You just mentioned Duffer Brothers need something cool, and they like their sci-fi.
And they've got that. They could get the tone right, I think, if they wanted to do something that was set sort of back then and do it like an immediate sequel, something. So yeah, most definitely. For me, I wanted to just throw in a couple of elements like The Day the Earth Stood Still, as a classic sci-fi movie, black and white, not the Keanu Reeves remake. It's just one of those films. It's one of the ultimate B movies, and it's really a film that started an entire genre. It's still a great film now, and again, it's 100% should be in anyone's movie. Never mind sci-fi education, your movie education. Why that film got made, what it means, what it is, and Flight of the Navigator, which is another film they're planning to remake, and there is absolutely no need. That film still looks good now. The special effects, even though it's 30 years old, still look fine. They still look great, and they'll just mess it up. But Flight of the Navigator, again, if you've got kids, any kid will love it. It's such a great movie.
There is one sci-fi film we haven't mentioned, and I'm surprised no one's mentioned it. So it deserves to be in the honorable mentions, and it is Stargate.
Yeah. The Stargate.
No one's mentioned it. It's a great film. It kickstarted one of the greatest things that we all have something in common about. So,
yeah,
true.
Yeah, I can't believe.
Another that we haven't mentioned yet. It's not Stargate related, but it came out I think the year before or after. Jurassic Park. That's just excellent
sci-fi. Oh God, actually,
one of the best films ever, honestly. And it's just, it's so easy to look over it with all these different like concepts and these just fun like badass sci-fi things that we're thinking about.
It's because there's no aliens and spaceships. It's dinosaurs. It's the other way.
It's true. Just science, just our science, I guess.
We think of science fiction being futuristic, don't we? But actually, this case was prehistoric, but it's sci-fi, 100%. Yeah.
Literally.
I've been checking the lists as we're going through. Armageddon, great, fun movie.
Fantastic.
Not a classic, but a fun movie. Always worth watching. The Thing, I would argue maybe that's a horror movie.
Yeah,
it's really just a remake of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, really, from a concept point of view. But classic movie, brilliant special effects, stands up today. Fantastic film. Ultraviolet was on the list there, as somebody mentioned. Somebody mentioned Galaxy Quest. Great film.
Yes.
Galaxy Quest is great, but it is a comedy. And then there's somebody else mentioned Jupiter Ascending. I think they might have been joking.
Okay.
So.
I am having a look at a list, right? Just to see if any stand out to me. This one has stood out, but I wouldn't necessarily consider it sci-fi. Flubber.
It's kind of sci-fi.
Is it sci-fi? It's a good film, but is it sci-fi?
It's comedy, but it's sci-fi-esque.
No. The last two I'm just going to throw out there. Just come up there. Independence Day, great film. And,
the original, yeah.
The Fifth Element.
Ooh,
you're talking about conceptual movies as well. The Fifth Element is a phenomenal movie, and it's proper sci-fi.
One I didn't toss in there was I wanted to, but it might have been a wrench. It just doesn't fit in the top 5. Was WALL-E. WALL-E's just another great one.
If we're going to do animated sci-fi movies, maybe that's another video we'll do another time. But yeah, it will definitely be in there.
We got Fantastic Planet up in there, huh?
Right. Let's start throwing through, guys. We need to
start talking about Futurama.
Yeah, I know.
No, I tweeted at him yesterday.
Right. I've got to go very shortly. So we need a top 5, gentlemen. So I think the only thing that I think we're all going to agree on that deserves to probably be in the top 5 is the 2001: A Space Odyssey. Do we agree?
Yeah. Right. That and Matrix, probably.
And I was going to say, and maybe the Matrix. So
we all put Matrix on our list, so it deserves to be in there.
We won't maybe do an order on this because I think it's too difficult because there's lots of different reasons why. So we got 2. We're on a roll.
Back to the Future has to be in there.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does. It's iconic.
What are all the options again? Just can you give us the list of options?
I'll throw through our lists: Predator and Predator and Predator, Spaceballs. I'm willing to have a discussion about the Fifth Element, about the list that people that the subscribers have thrown in that I think are worth a conversation, and The Abyss, and Close Encounters. Fantastic Planet, Blade Runner, Matrix 2001, Interstellar. We're easiest to throw out names here, right, guys? Are we throwing out the Predator? Even though I say it's a perfect movie, is it a perfect sci-fi movie?
It feels more actiony than sci-fi and
more of an action movie. Okay. Undiscovered Country, I'm more than willing to throw out. RoboCop, I think we should definitely have a conversation about.
That's
Aliens. It's a difficult one, but we'll leave it in for now. And
I'd go Aliens over RoboCop.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, hey, we are a democracy, unless I put my foot down and decide that we're not. So I'm willing to. So I'm going to put a question mark on Aliens for a second. Stormy's list: Dune, Contact, 2001, Moon, and Aliens. So that's 2 votes for Aliens, really. Matt, Planet of the Apes. I'm not a fan.
Don't put it on the top 5 because it's not. It's only in my top 5.
Back to the Future, I'm willing to have a conversation about, and Terminator 2, I'm willing to have a conversation about. Right. Harris, Fantastic Planet. Mate, it's too conceptual.
No, there's no way.
It's a great movie, and it's historic. There's a historic relevance to it, but it's like it's an education thing. It's not thing. So I'm going to take
not something that we all jump at.
You've got 2001 in there. I'm going to remove Interstellar. And I am putting my foot down on this because it's stupid and it's boring. So, Blade Runner.
Hang on. If this is democracy, I like Interstellar. So does
Harry. Wait a second.
That's my democracy, no, mate.
It's a J-tatorship.
It's my democracy. So
J-tatorship, yeah.
Blade Runner, though.
King J.
I am Lord J. Lord
of You're in England.
Okay, we can have a conversation about Interstellar, but it'll be a short one. So why should I put Interstellar in the top 5?
Because it's good.
Not good enough. No, crossed it out already. No.
Fine, Back to the Future has to replace it then.
Back to the Future still in the conversation? Jesus Christ, people, guys, get to the comments. You're allowed to weigh in on this. If I get 10 people in the next 5 minutes going, come on, Interstellar, I'll throw it in. All right.
Come on, y'all. I'm trying to encourage.
Or just say no. Right. So we've got Back to the Future. Remember, we've only got 5 spaces here, guys. So we've got to be harsh. We've got 3 spaces left. So we have options at the moment of, I think, The Fifth Element, Jurassic Park, The Thing, Independence Day, Close Encounters. And on our lists, we've got still having a chat about Back to the Future, Terminator 2, and Blade Runner. Now, I think all of those have a good argument to get on this list. Back to the Future. If we're talking about popular, you can't get much more, can you?
Everyone knows Back to the Future. Even people who don't like sci-fi like Back to the Future.
Right. So, I mean, I would even say that it's so popular. It's even you forget it's actually sci-fi.
Yeah. Well, someone in the comments said it's a comedy, not a sci-fi. It is a sci-fi. It has comedic elements, but so do most great sci-fis. So,
yeah, I think it's not an out-and-out comedy.
Yeah,
there aren't many jokes in it. It's not like Spaceballs, which is an out-and-out comedy, or even Ghostbusters, which is, I think, primarily a comedy. It's written by a comedian. It's got a few jokes in it. So no, I think it's primarily a sci-fi. You can argue it's a sci-fi action comedy, maybe, but it's sci-fi. I'll give you that. So, The Matrix. It appeared on almost all of our lists.
Oh yeah.
That should be in there.
100%.
Maybe been let down by sequels a little bit, but yeah,
the original
I'd already written it down.
I think the original's so strong it doesn't matter what the sequels. I think about the sequels.
100%.
Do you know what, guys? I'm thinking we really are. Are we going to go Terminator or Aliens? Or
can we just say James Cameron?
Well, do they both deserve to be on the list? Because T2, I struggle to decide between Terminator and T2.
Or Aliens and Terminator 2?
No, I mean actually, literally between the original Terminator movie and Terminator 2, I'd struggle to pick one for different reasons. I love them both.
Mm-hmm.
Aliens, I think, is more a horror movie than it is a sci-fi. I think Terminator, but Aliens is a sci-fi movie. It's an action sci-fi movie, but it's a sci-fi movie. I think Aliens has got to be on the list, because I mean, how would you feel about a list that was 2001: A Space Odyssey, The Matrix, Back to the Future, Aliens, and Terminator 2 as our top 5?
That
works for me.
Predator.
I'm not opposed by any means. There's just so many other just the honorable mention of Jurassic Park and things like that just make you want to toss something like that in there. But Alien, how can you complain with Aliens?
It's an impossible list to make, isn't it? You can't ever make the list and have it be.
We've got to, because that's what the point of it. We've just wasted an hour and a half.
If we're gonna sit here and weigh every single film that's been on that list, we'd be here for another hour. So
a couple days, maybe.
Any films on here though that you? There's a few films I could swap out here. Dune. You could argue that all day.
Oh yeah.
You can argue, like you said, you argue Jurassic Park all day. There aren't. That's 5 films that. Okay, well, put it this way: 5 films that have influenced sci-fi and influenced cinema, and we've got 2001: A Space Odyssey, The Matrix, Terminator 2, Back to the Future, and Aliens.
Well, if we're gonna specify that, I'm gonna toss Fantastic Planet back in the ring, but that just complicates things. Because if for influence alone,
I thought you said Captain Planet. Captain Planet, he's a hero. He's going to take pollution down to 0.
If Don Cheadle's Captain Planet, then yes.
Bonk Bonk's back. Hello, Bonk Bonk. You're my favorite.
Oh, John Carter. That's I love John Carter. That never gets a good rap.
That was let down by the casting.
Mm-hmm. Well, honestly, I don't mind the casting.
Oh, man. Equilibrium wasn't that just copying the Matrix?
Yeah, mostly.
Good film.
Yeah,
I liked it, but it felt like it was copying the Matrix to me. 13th Floor, great film. Dark City, great film. Demolition Man. Demolition Man's maybe a bit too. It's more of an action movie and more of a thing. But yeah, no, it's a classic movie. Absolutely fantastic. Really, really good list there. Bonk bonk, and best name of anybody in here tonight. So
bonk bonk.
Did y'all see that interaction in the chat right above and below that real quick? Bob said, "Where's this? What's this June movie?" And someone said, "Bob, it's June."
Who's taking a piss out of me, Bob?
It just cracked me up.
Dune. June. Yeah, I don't say my D's or my T's very well either. So, what you think? What do you think, guys? What's a think? What do you think? I'm sorry, Juno. I think he means Juno. It's a good film. Good film. Thank you, Epics. Thank you.
Not a sci-fi, but
yeah, but no. Okay, so we have got a list there that I would say that maybe they're not. I think if you're going to influence, if you're looking from an influence and entertainment point of view, you would watch any of these films a million times.
Yes.
And you'll never get bored of it.
Yeah. Influence entertainment, perfect.
But there are so many movies on here that have got like Close Encounters that you really struggle to argue. War of the Worlds, even that have such great moments in. Yeah, Paul Malone's just put The Fly.
Yeah,
this is so. I think us having our top five, our official top five, is difficult, but because, like I say, Undiscovered Country for me, it's such an important movie to me, and like Matt's entire list, it's films that is important to him. You know, it's like you can't take away from that. So what I might do, I will say that's our official top five of most influential sci-fi movies, and I think that's fair. Does that sound fair?
Yeah,
because it does influence people, whatever. But our top five is our own lists because it's so important to us, and it's really difficult to say any more than that because it's just like I said, Predator for me is just it's perfect. How do you not have that on the top five? It's perfection. But
it's so good.
Who's playing music?
It's not me.
I think it's Matthew. We're live and someone's phoning who's ridiculous. Right.
I put my phone on the play button.
How unprofessional. Guys, thank you so much for, again, an entertaining video. I don't think we've achieved anything, and I don't think we've decided anything.
No.
We've got a giggle.
But we talked about some great films.
We did talk about some great movies. And we had shits and giggles. And guys, everyone in the comments again, thank you so much. You've been absolutely legendary, as you always are. And just a few more comments come in. It's your list the way it should be. Generalization. Thank you so much.
One good comment earlier was from R. I think they said we should do a top 5 B-list sci-fi movies at some point.
That's our next. That we will do that in a couple of weeks. I think that is a very, very good idea because, yeah, I mean the B-list movie. Ooh, you can see we're going to end up arguing over that again, though.
Oh yeah, it's going to be fun.
What's the B-list? What's a B? I think it's got to be a bit cheesy. Somebody mentioned the film with the wrestler. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I'll talk about it next week. But yeah, in a couple of weeks we will do that. I love these top fives. I think there's so much fun. I just love the crossovers, you know, like everything's like everyone's said the Matrix and why, but I love it when somebody just throws out something completely fucking random as well. It's just that's great.
Futurama,
huh? Yeah, what Futurama? What of the best movie ever, the best sci-fi series ever? You idiot! Amazing,
the fun kind.
All good fun. But guys, thank you so much. So bye everybody.
Bye.
See ya.
See you guys. See you next week. Have a good one.